what truly awaits beyond our final breath? Do we vanish into an eternal void, or do we pass into realms our minds can scarcely imagine? Welcome, fellow seeker, to a journey through one of the most mysterious spiritual texts in existence, an ancient guide known in the West as the Tibetan Book of the Dead, or in its original name, the Pabado. This isn't merely a book, it's a roadmap for the soul, intended to illuminate what happens in the moments after death. It outlines the terrain of consciousness when the body is no longer present, offering the deceased a chance to recognize truth and attain liberation. Far from being a manual of mourning, it is a text of profound compassion and spiritual opportunity, a sacred compass to navigate the transitional states of death, the bardos. The origins of this teaching trace back to Padmasambhava, a legendary master in Tibetan Buddhism, revered as the one who brought the Dharma to Tibet in the 8th century. Born in India, Padmasambhava was no ordinary monk. Known as Guru Rinpoche, meaning precious master, he was a mystic, a yogi, and a spiritual innovator. With mastery in esoteric practices and tantric teachings, he worked to harmonize the spiritual fabric of Tibet, weaving Buddhism into a land rich in ancient shamanic traditions. At the time, Tibet's spiritual landscape was dominated by the Bon religion, a powerful system of animistic beliefs deeply rooted in nature worship, local deities, and ritualistic magic. Introducing Buddhism into this milieu was no simple task. Spirits, gods, and energies resisted the foreign teachings, but Padmasambhava, wielding his deep knowledge of tantric rituals and inner realization, did not seek to erase these entities. Instead, he transformed them, integrating their symbolic essence into the Buddhist path. This synthesis created a uniquely Tibetan form of Buddhism, one that acknowledges and transcends its indigenous origins. From this deep compassion and understanding emerged the Pabado. The aim was clear: to guide consciousness at the time of death, to offer clarity and support when the mind is most vulnerable, and to help the soul find liberation during the profound moments that follow life's end. The text was meant not only for the dying but also for the living, to study, contemplate, and prepare the mind for the inevitable transitions that await us all. In the Tibetan view, death is not an end but a gateway, a moment when the mind, free from the distractions of the physical world, becomes acutely sensitive to truth. Padmasambhava recognized that in this window of time, great spiritual progress could be made, yet he also knew that many become lost in fear, illusion, and confusion during this passage. And so he encoded his teachings in a text to be read aloud near the dying, or memorized in life, so that even in death, guidance might be heard. The Pabado speaks of 3 primary states, or bardos, the consciousness travels through after death. 1. The Chikai Bardo, the moment of death. This is the initial phase following the separation of consciousness from the physical body. Here, the dying person experiences the dissolution of the physical elements: earth, water, fire, air, and space. Each stage of dissolution brings sensory and emotional changes, weightlessness, disorientation, or bright visions, as the soul is gradually released from its worldly anchor. At the end of this process, a brilliant, all-encompassing radiance emerges. This is the clear light, a manifestation of the mind's true nature. It is vast, infinite, and beyond form or fear. It is not a being or deity, but the essence of consciousness itself, timeless, pure, and complete. This clear light is our original nature, and recognition of it brings immediate liberation from suffering and rebirth. One who can meet this light without fear or confusion merges into it, attaining complete freedom. Yet for most, this overwhelming brilliance is not recognized. Conditioned by lifetimes of duality, attachment, and fear, the mind recoils. The chance for immediate liberation is missed, and the soul moves on to the next stage. 2. The Chunyid Bardo, the Bardo of visions. In this realm, the mind, now untethered from the body, begins to project its own inner contents. Thoughts, emotions, and unresolved karmic imprints bloom into vivid visions, some divine and awe-inspiring, others terrifying and nightmarish. The Tibetan tradition speaks of peaceful and wrathful deities appearing in this phase. These are not external gods, but symbolic manifestations of the soul's own consciousness. Initially, the peaceful deities arise, radiant forms of compassion, wisdom, and inner balance. They embody the enlightened qualities within each being. Those who can recognize them as reflections of their true self are again given the chance to awaken. But if fear or confusion prevails, these peaceful forms give way to wrathful appearances, deities with terrifying faces, wild gestures, and overwhelming presence. These two are not enemies or tormentors, but expressions of powerful emotions, anger, pride, desire, and ignorance, surfacing with force now that there are no bodily distractions to suppress them. In this stage, everything is intensified. Thoughts manifest instantly. Desires form landscapes, fears become monsters. Yet, all of this is illusion, mental projections with no independent existence. Those who understand this, who can see through the images and remember the nature of the mind, find freedom. This bardo is a profound psychological mirror, revealing what we carry inside. Carl Jung once suggested that gods and demons are the contents of the unconscious, made visible. In this bardo, such a statement becomes tangible. It is a dreamlike dimension, but with clarity more piercing than any waking experience. Here, mindfulness is the lifeline. Those trained to observe their minds in life can navigate this world with calm and insight, but those unprepared may be swept away by the force of their own projections, spiraling deeper into confusion and toward the pull of rebirth. The Thesid pabado, the bardo of becoming and rebirth. By this stage, the soul has failed to recognize the clear light and has not seen through the projections of the second bardo. What follows is a descent into rebirth, a gradual reformation of identity based on karma and unfulfilled desires. The Thesid pabado is the realm of momentum, of seeking. The soul begins to crave form, experience, and sensation. The accumulated energy of past actions now becomes the architect of the next life. One's tendencies, fears, loves, regrets, and attachments become guiding forces that steer consciousness toward particular parents, circumstances, and environments. This is not a rational decision-making process. The soul is drawn to its next life as if magnetized. Images of couples in union appear, symbols of conception. The pull toward rebirth becomes irresistible. For most, this attraction is unconscious, a response to unexamined patterns that demand repetition. However, even here, there is a final chance. If the soul can maintain detachment, if it can resist the pull of desire and see through the illusions of form, it may still escape the cycle and awaken. But such mastery is rare. For most, rebirth occurs, and the cycle of life begins anew. This cyclical journey, death, vision, rebirth, is not seen as punishment, but as opportunity. Each life is another classroom, each death another threshold. The teachings of the Bardo Fodol are not meant to frighten, but to prepare. They suggest that how we live determines how we die. Our choices, our clarity, our compassion, these shape our journey beyond the veil. The text urges us to live mindfully, to become familiar with the nature of our mind, to contemplate impermanence, and to engage in spiritual practice, not for dogma's sake, but to strengthen awareness, so that in those crucial post-death moments we will not be lost. By training in life to recognize the clear light, we may recognize it in death. By learning to observe our thoughts, we may not be overwhelmed by them in the vision bardo. By understanding the illusions of desire, we may not be compelled to enter a new cycle of suffering. At its heart, the Bardo Fodol is an offering of love and liberation. It tells us that we are not doomed by death, that even in the darkest moments there is a path forward, a light to follow, a truth to remember. It is a text of hope for those who seek to awaken, not just in life, but in every transition that follows. Life and death are not opposites, they are partners in the same dance. And in each moment, whether waking or dying, the opportunity for awakening awaits. Perhaps the ultimate question isn't what happens after death, but rather, are we ready to recognize who we truly are when everything else falls away? Through this understanding, death becomes not an end, but the final teacher.